Clause 9 stand part.
Mr. Chair.
Grant Robertson.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Clause 9 is an amendment to the current Royal Society Act around the question of the Fellows of the Royal Society, and it amends Section 10 by omitting the Academy Council and in each place substituting the Academy Executive Committee, and then also by omitting Science or Technology and substituting Science, Technology or the Humanities. So to take those two matters in reverse order, this particular part of the bill deals with the parts of the Royal Society Act that talk about fellows. And it is now worth doing a little bit of explanation about what it is to be a Fellow of the Royal Society. Mr Quinn, earlier in the debate, tried to suggest that perhaps he might be a Fellow of the Royal Society, and I would encourage members to listen to the description of what it is to be a Fellow of the Royal Society and make their own mind up about whether that is likely to be the case. So Fellowship of the Royal Society of New Zealand is an honour conferred for distinction in research or the advancement of science or technology, and now the humanities. Since its earliest days, the Royal Society has made provision for there also to be honorary fellows from overseas institutions, and I think we'll actually come to discussing that, yes, in Clause 12, so I won't talk about those honorary fellows just at this time. So there are currently 366 fellows of the Royal Society, and that, I think, says a lot about the esteem in which people who become fellows are held. It isn't something that happens easily. It's something that has to be based on a record of scholarship and of advancement of research in a way that is beyond the norm. And just anybody who is familiar with science in New Zealand, when you read, and this is, I have here the names of the Royal Society Fellows, and when you work your way through the list of Royal Society Fellows, it's clear that what we're talking about here in Section 9 are people of the highest achievement. Just looking here randomly, Peter Barrett, who's from the School of Earth Sciences at Victoria University here in Wellington, has been one of the people globally who has led understanding of the Antarctic and understanding of the impact of climate change on the Antarctic. And Peter has led global thinking on that. He's led a team of researchers from a number of academic institutions in New Zealand and overseas to understand Antarctica and particularly the impact of climate change on the western ice shelf in Antarctica where there has been significant impact. And his work, Peter's largely moved on, I think, from full-time academic work now, but his work continues at Victoria University, and I know that he continues to be involved in that. Also among the Fellows of the Royal Society are people who we might more traditionally associate with the humanities. That includes James Bellich from the Stout Research Centre, also here in Wellington at Victoria University. The Stout Research Centre, for colleagues who aren't aware, is the research centre devoted to the study of New Zealand, essentially, to the study of the history and the politics and in fact from the humanities. So there already are people who are fellows who are within the humanities, and I'm sure in future calls I can find my way back to the many people who have become Fellows of the Royal Society based on some excellent work. I would note that there is a Fellow of the Royal Society named Alan Bollard, but it isn't the Alan Bollard who is the Governor of the Reserve Bank, just to lest anyone be concerned about that. So Section 9, Mr Chair, is about the Fellows, and it brings the humanities within that. In order to become a Fellow of the Royal Society, one has to be elected by an annual general meeting of the Royal Society, and that annual general meeting acts on a recommendation of the Fellowship Selection Committee. Candidates get shortlisted by fellowship selection panels from within each academic discipline. So through Clause 9 here now, we will be including the humanities to be a new sub-part of the selection for Royal Societies. There's a process that begins in December each year, so Mr Quinn perhaps could be getting his application ready now. Ms Mackey looks alarmed. She's missed the earlier debate about Mr Quinn, who believed he may have been a Fellow of the Royal Society, but we've clarified that he definitely is not. There is a series of applications that go to... he proves it by his presence, Mr Bridges. That's what he does. The panels receive nomination documents and work through a shortlist and then make that recommendation. It's rigorous. The process takes the best part of a year for people to put their applications in, be assessed, Mr Chair.
Graham Roberts.
Thank you. To be assessed by subject-related panels and then work their way through to deciding how many fellows will be put forward. There are currently 12 of those discipline fellowship selection panels. I suspect there will be 13 once this bill goes through. And the fellowship selection committee's work is then approved by the Academy Executive Committee, and that brings us back to Clause 9.1, which is to change the name of the Academy Council to the Academy Executive Committee. And I appreciate there's quite a long time between each time that we debate elements of this bill. Just to refresh members' memories, we are changing under this Act, in fact we already have under an earlier part, the Academy Council is now called the Academy Executive Committee. The reason we're doing that is because there is something called the Council of the Royal Society, which is its overall governing body, and so to avoid confusion, what was called the Academy Council is now called the Academy Executive Committee, and its job is the nuts and bolts of making sure that the awards, the prizes, the membership is undertaken. So that's what the Academy Executive Committee do. The Council's the governance body, the Academy Executive Committee is really the administrative body, making sure that it goes through and does the things it does. It's populated by scientists, so when they're making decisions about who should get an award, who should be a Fellow of the Royal Society, that's the Academy Executive Committee, and that's what was previously called the Academy Council. And here in Clause 9.1, Mr Chair, we are making that change in this particular part of the Act that revolves around the creation of fellowships. Each year in October, the Fellows have an AGM where they look at the list of recommended candidates along with brief citation, and the Academy then votes to elect the recommended candidates to fellowship. So there's actually a threefold process, starting out at the beginning with nominations, going to those discipline panels, and then a recommendation coming up to the Fellows AGM via the Academy Council. So it's a rigorous process. People don't get to become Fellows of the Royal Society by accident. It is something to be proud of, and Paul Quinn, unfortunately, I suspect is going to struggle, although he does have to December to pick up his game. I'll remind you of that, Mr Bridges, one day. So currently up to 12 fellows are elected annually. So that's the limitation, 12 fellows only annually. Bringing the humanities in, and it was, I have to say, one of the concerns raised in the Select Committee by the Wellington branch was by bringing the humanities in, given there are, in this case, this example, only 12 fellows, could that dilute, put pressure on the number of fellows? But as we've seen, there are already some fellows from the humanities area, and in fact in many ways it just makes it even more an exclusive club, and the standard is even higher to become a fellow of the Royal Society. So to have only 300 or so of them at this time certainly recognises that level of excellence. Nominations for fellowship remain valid for 5 years. So if someone isn't able to be successful the first time, their nomination stands for a 5-year period, and obviously they continue to develop their own academic career at that time. And then there's a 3-year stand-down period after the 5 years elapse. So you're in the ballot for 5 years. If you're not successful after that time, a 3-year stand-down period, and then you can be or can put yourself forward again at that point. So I think that indicates, again, this is a very high standard to become a Fellow of the Royal Society. And so Clause 9 effectively is putting in place the building blocks of having the humanities, or people from the humanities, to be fellows. So we're changing the language about Academy Council and Academy Executive Committee, and then dropping in the humanities so that people from the humanities can now be part of this process for being a fellow. The Fellowship Selection Committee works closely with the Academy Executive Committee as in Clause 9.1, and I'm not aware of any major conflict in the past of the Royal Society. Other members may be, but I think it's a process whereby the people who are already Fellows of the Royal Society help bring through new people, and under this new Clause 9.2, those people will be able to be from the humanities. And I think Mr Chair, that is a very important part of the Royal Society embracing its new broader mandate, is to have people from the humanities who reach the highest level of membership of the organisation, and that is to be a fellow of the organisation. I know that there are a number of other matters, Mr Chair, that I can come back to if need be in future calls around the rules and fellowship bylaws, and I'll be happy to do that if members wish.